Welcome to This Week in Guns, a podcast that covers a commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. Brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. I'm your host, Jake Challen, president of FRN. You make this show possible. That's right. You simply click through our Amazon affiliate link the next time you're shopping online, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. Great panel lined up this week. We have Nathan Murr of the Kinetic Development Group and writer for Recoil Magazine, and inventor, hobbyist, product and business development expert, all of the above. Hey, Nate.
Hobbyist? Who put hobbyist in there?
I made it up. Sorry.
Oh, that sounds good. No, hey, Jake, how's it going? I'm glad to be back on.
Great to have you back. And we have Josh Cast, Four Guys Guns. Hey, Josh.
Pleasure to be here, Jake. Thanks for having me.
And we have Adam Kraut, Esquire, Tier Level 1.02, Firearms Industry Consulting Group, a division of Prince Law Offices. Adam.
Hello, Jake. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great to have you. And we have a first-timer. We have Nate Barrett from the Industrialist Podcast. Hey, Nate.
Hey, Jake. It is an absolute honor to be on the show.
Hey, give us a quick rundown of what the Industrialist Podcast is.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a fairly new show. We focus on the manufacturing leadership aspects of the shooting and hunting industry. So we get into a lot of business development ideas, process development. We talk about all the manufacturing fundamentals like safety, people, quality, throughput, responsiveness, cost, all that good stuff. And we kind of leave the tactics and the politics to all you experts in that field.
Experts?
Experts.
Loosely.
No, great to have you on. I checked out your Alzetta interview with Dave Barnett. That was a great interview. Dave's a great guy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was awesome interviewing Dave, and we've had a lot of other great guys on the show as well. Rob Pincus, and we have our first female guest coming up this following Monday, Kelly Brunn with Excess Sight Systems. So another fantastic interview. Encourage everybody to tune in. It's theindustrialistusa.com. Don't forget the USA, and you can just go to the podcast page and listen through. No matter what platform you have, Android, iTunes, it's all right there on the website.
Very cool. And the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. Patriot Batch Company helps make this episode possible. You can check out the new T-shirts on there. Currently wearing one. Our first revolver shirt. Nothing beats a good old-fashioned American-made classic. Live on the website right now. And we have some new T-shirts premiering soon. As you heard John say last week, he's going to start rocking them on the Gun Collective. So, you know, I got to release more and more T-shirts because John has to wear them now. So check them out, patriotpatch.co. And also sign up for our email list. You can win a chance to get a free patch per month for a year. Sign up is right there on our website, patriotpatch.co. And real quick, we added some new Patreon perks here where you can get a chance to hang out with the hosts of This Week in Guns after the show. That's right, you can hang out with some of these guys after the show 1 or 2 times per month. Patreon.com/week. Check it out. The top stories this week, we're going to start out with some positive stuff. Good news for Alabama. Your carry permit now acts as a NICS exception when purchasing a firearm. So this came out this week. It's a ruling by the ATF. So that's pretty good news for anyone looking to buy a firearm in Alabama and who also has a concealed carry permit. How about you guys? Do any of your states have this currently?
No, Pennsylvania doesn't have an exception for the NICS check with that.
So there's a few states that do. I think Washington State does. Illinois does not. Nate, do you know if Tennessee does?
I was thinking about this, Jake. I'm not sure if we have it or not, but I can tell you the last time I purchased a handgun, it was about a 7-minute total transaction time. So, and I, of course, have my carry permit. So I'm thinking maybe we do. I don't know, but just even looking at this story from a manufacturing standpoint, what's awesome is anytime you can avoid duplication of effort and still get the same level of quality, that's a great thing.
Whitey, how about you up there? And
I'm still trying to wrap my head around what. I'm sorry, I missed this article. Like I got the other three after this down, but I missed this, and I'm trying to figure out wait, what? I'm baffled. No, there's no exceptions. You get nicks. That's
So
gotta get nicks.
there's a list on ATF's website, permanent Brady permit chart. Notwithstanding the dates set forth below, permits qualify as an alternative to background check requirements of Brady law for no more than 5 years from the date of issuance. Permit must be valid under state law in order to qualify. So they list Alabama issued on or after August 1st, 2013. And this, by the way, this was last updated June 10th of 2014. Alaska weapons permit marked NICS exempt. Arizona, Arkansas after 99, California entertainment firearms permit only, Georgia firearms license qualify, Hawaii permits to acquire and licenses to carry qualify, Idaho concealed weapons permits qualify, Iowa permits to acquire, Kansas after 2010, Kentucky and Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, North Carolina, North Dakota, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Washington, West Virginia, and Wyoming. And I'll put that in the show notes.
awesome.
Sorry for boring everybody with that.
No, that's fine. That's way more than I thought there was. So basically, in those states, you can what? How would you describe it? Cash and carry?
No. So
No?
the process, the only thing it does is allows you to not have to have a background check either phoned in or run through the computer, depending upon how your dealer does it. So there's a spot on the 4473 that the licensee or one of their employees fills out, and at least here in Pennsylvania, it's not applicable, so we don't do it. But there is a checkbox that says no NICS check required because of valid permit or something along those lines, and then you'd fill in the information, the issuing, the whatever the permit is, date issued, date expires, and the permit number on it.
So is that?
It's in lieu of a background check.
Is it because their background check is so stringent that they're like, yeah, you already far surpassed everything.
No, I don't.
That we don't need to worry about it.
I don't know why some states do it and others don't. Because in Pennsylvania, in order to get a license to carry firearms, they run it through PICS, which is the Pennsylvania Instant Check System, and they contact the National Instant Check System anyway. We're just a point of contact state, so instead of going directly to the national one, we contact the Pennsylvania State Police, and then they contact them. So, I don't know why some states do it and others don't. It might have something to do with the states, individually saying, yeah, we want everybody buying a gun to go through a background check, where other states say, yeah, you have a license to carry or concealed weapons, whatever it's called in your state. We're cool with that, and then they get reissued every 5 years or what have you, and you're still not a bad person or prohibited person, I should say.
Interesting.
I mean, I think it's a cool thing. I think it's a pretty good idea. Like, there's been times where I've tried to buy a gun where the background check system was down and it didn't come back online for hours, so I either had to leave, come back later in the day to pick up my gun, or I had to come back the following day. There's been a couple times, really large gun shows in Pennsylvania where the system's gone down, and all those vendors, all the sellers, that's lost profit to them. So I think about how many CCW holders there are in PA. It would just speed up the transaction. I think it's a good thing. I would like to see us go to that.
I like it from a
You
liberty
might argue that,
standpoint.
Adam.
So I'm all
From
for
a
it,
liberty
man.
standpoint.
I
Wait.
was trying to find this picture here because one of the gun shows I worked, I forget when it was. Here it is. I called PICS a total of 288 times, um, and it was for a 54-minute long phone call in order to run a background check on one individual. 288 times until I got to somebody.
Did the guy get approved?
Yeah, it only took almost an hour, but here you go, so you guys can see that I'm not kidding. 288 times.
Well, that's yeah, that's something else. But, so, Nate, I'm gonna send you a new headset. Yours is going out, I think. Well, we'll stick with it for
is
this
it hard to
episode.
hear me or?
You have static and stuff, so I'll send you a new headset. So let's move on to February 3rd, biggest month ever for background checks for gun purchases. So seems to be a recurring theme here the last few months.
Yeah, I think Jake, reading through that article there too, you see this recurring theme within the article itself. I think you sent the link that you sent was a CNN article, but you just see this recurring theme of fear. Fear of being a victim of these mass shootings, fear of stricter gun control, and probably a subset of that would be fear of the outcome of the presidential election as well. But I think as far as a spike, yeah, maybe some of these instances probably did factor a lot into that. But part of what I'm thinking is too, we've just got a lot of great opportunities with technology, and it's just kind of fun. And what about sheer enjoyment and folks just going out and enjoying shooting? I don't, like I said, I don't know if that would explain the sudden spike in February, but I think shooting has just become a lot more accessible, enjoyable. You got networks like PDN and whatnot that are doing things to teach people about personal defense and just get a lot of enjoyment.
So, do you guys think we're going to see this continue throughout the election year, like we have seen in past election years?
God, I hope not. I don't know. It's tough to say. I think it's going to depend on how the election goes, and there'll be that time of people, if it goes one way, that people will likely panic. And you also have to remember, while everybody thinks, oh, the panic's over, everybody bought everything they could, you continuously have individuals who turn legal age to purchase stuff. So there's a whole influx of people that couldn't necessarily buy anything before, and maybe they didn't live in houses where their parents owned guns and guns were taboo. So they may be running out and blowing all their money on it too. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
We'll see how it goes, I guess.
So, is there like a chart? I want to see the mountain. That's what it boils down to, because all these nobody wants guns, nobody needs guns, all this gun control, and have we had a month that's dipped down? No.
Not significantly, I don't think so. But yeah, that would be a neat flowchart to see. I mean, I've seen the one for like the last 15, 20 years, and it's a steady climb.
And what does that show for the state of the union, so to speak? Historically, when a society begins arming itself, not to get super right-wing or tinfoil hat for anybody, but when society starts arming itself. Moving on.
Justice Thomas breaks 10-year silence on gun rights case. The Supreme Court here. Justice Thomas is known for never really asking questions during court proceedings, but he broke his, I think it was like years and years of silence, 10 years of silence here, that he posed the question, can you think of another constitutional right that can be suspended based upon a misdemeanor violation of a state law?
First of all, I want everyone to look at the picture at the top of this article because I swear the first thing that came to my mind was, I'm getting too old for this stuff. It is Danny Glover on the Supreme Court, and I do in fact love that quote, because it's as simply put as it can get, and I think we've asked that a million times, but we're not U.S. Supreme Court justices, and apparently he's following in the footsteps of Thurgood, because Thurgood was the same way, and it's very interesting, and I'm curious as to the motivation behind that statement, because I'm curious, does that make him an avid gun supporter, Second Amendment supporter?
No,
Does that make him an avid, constitutional supporter?
He's
It says. It says. I mean, I'm sorry.
no.
It says in the article that his closest ally was Justice Scalia, who just died 2 weeks ago. So I wonder, with Justice Scalia gone, if Thomas is kind of like picking up the slack in that. That was his closest ally, and
That
I
makes
assume
sense.
a friend as well.
That makes sense.
I mean,
who else do you hang out with when you're a
Justice
Supreme Court
Scalia.
justice?
Yeah, yeah, right. Your pool of friends probably closes, but the thing is, like, Justice Scalia was arguably one of the best justices and one of the most pro Second Amendment justices we've had in a very long time, and the nation is diminished by his loss. But that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of fear about whoever gets nominated to take Justice Scalia's position, or his spot, how that's going to affect the outcome of future things. So I don't know. This might be, if the guy broke his silence for the first time in 10 years during an oral argument to ask a question that's very pointed. It's very like, what other misdemeanor cost you a constitutional right? And the answer to that is what, Adam?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that is kind of a big deal, and it's a good question to ask.
Yeah, and I think too, guys, one of the things when I was looking over this article, thinking about normally these justices have a pretty good idea of where they're heading, the outcome of the decision. I think when I was in law school, there was a lot of conversation always that such a great percentage of these cases are already determined based on the briefs that are written and the briefs in support and whatnot. So more or less, Thomas was most likely trying to point out something that maybe he thought his fellow justices weren't picking up on, or maybe the attorney, the state attorney that he was questioning there, wanted to point out to her specifically.
So yeah, one of the things that I don't know how much the listeners know about the Supreme Court and how it works and whatnot, but a lot of times when justices are asking questions, it's not so much for an answer for them, it's so that it's pointed towards someone else on the bench. So here, you need to pay attention to this. Like, I already know about this, but here's something for you to consider. So they do what they call it talking to one another through questions, and it's not so much for his own benefit. So with Scalia not being there, it's entirely possible that he's asking questions that Scalia would have been asking, and he felt no need to, open into a dialogue because somebody else was asking the questions he thought other people needed to hear the answers to.
Yeah. So, women charged for buying gun for Kansas shooter. We talked about the Kansas shooting a little bit last week. A guy went into his workplace, shot and killed several co-workers. Later came out that he was a convicted felon, prohibited from buying the AK-47 semi-auto rifle that he had and the Glock 22 that he had. Well, it turns out that a woman did a straw purchase to get these guns for him.
Shocking.
Good riddance. I hope they prosecute her all the way.
They should.
I don't want to say make an example, but in all honesty, it's like that's the biggest argument that we, I think, constantly fight with. It's, well, everyone wants to reduce this and reduce that, but in reality, they're not prosecuting any of the people that are causing the problems, including trips to Mexico. So, it's if we're not going to actually prosecute it, then what is the point of having said law in place or said box on NICS checks or anything like that at all? If we're just going to be like, this happened and bargain down to a misdemeanor in community service.
That's been the status quo, though.
Who's she going to give up? Grimace? Look at this.
Right.
She's hamburgling all day.
No, I agree, but I think that's why Chicago is so bad. Just constantly, again and again, all these gun crimes, they get off for a smaller offense, or they get a reduced sentence.
There was a chart, and I've been searching for it ever since you just said Chicago. It reminded me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy.
No problem.
It showed how many gun crimes were actually, how many times cops brought somebody in for a gun crime, and then it showed a chart as to how many prosecutions for said crime actually took place, and it was disgusting, the actual number difference. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, good point. And, I was just thinking, too, isn't this the same thing that happened with the whole San Bernardino, terrorist situation out there? I think the next-door neighbor had purchased the firearms for these folks.
Right. Yep. Kansas City teen arrested for machine gun possession. So what could have been a shooting incident was averted. Town near Kansas where a 19-year-old was found with weapons in his bag and machine guns, I'm doing air quotes every time I say machine guns, at his house, according to a report. And he's been arraigned in federal court. Said teachers and authorities learned that he had ammo, and an administrator found weapons in his bag. And then he was found sitting in a school suspension room wearing military-style clothes, boots, and ballistic armor. And then Whitey's probably laughing about how they also found a AR-15, sounds like an AR-15, 223 magazines, 9mm magazines, and an Uzi, and said both firearms displayed the traits of a machine gun.
And those would be what exactly?
They
look mean.
It sounds, as far as the machine gun charge, it said that he had a kit, like a machine gun conversion kit. So I don't know if that meant he had like an auto sear or whatever for the AR-15 is what I would assume. But it sounds like he got slapped with an intent to manufacture. If you have all the parts to make a machine gun, that's as bad as if you actually assembled it into a machine gun. And maybe I'm wrong, Adam Kraut, you might be able to answer that, but from what I understand, it's the same charge from the ATF either way.
Yeah, pretty much. ATF does whatever it wants, but yeah, they could certainly charge you with an illegal machine gun if you had all the parts to construct one. You had the intent to do it, even if you didn't.
That's what I'm saying. It's intent to manufacture instead of it. It sounds like it wasn't assembled. It sounds like he had the parts to do it from reading the article, but he didn't actually go through with it. But the important thing to point out was that this was career day at his school, and unfortunately this young chucklehead thought it was a good idea to wear camis and have all this, apparently wear body armor to career day because he wanted to be a Marine someday. So he will not be a Marine now.
I want to scream at this article so bad. I'm going to go on a tirade if we want it. If you say do it, do it.
I want it.
Screw this dad right here for trying to say that he made a mistake because of career day. No, your son went to a school dressed in camo with boots and loaded weapons and magazines and then showed them to people. Look in the mirror when you put on your camos, Mr. 16 to 19-year-old airsofter, and then go to school and tell me what you think of. Are we that far past Columbine that people don't friggin' understand you don't do that? My son is 6 and he won't take his plate orange pistol to school because daddy says that's not good because you'll freak other people out. No. Dad is in the dark. Kid is dumb. He shouldn't be a Marine anyway. Screw this kid.
Okay, moving on.
He did my beloved core a huge favor.
Yeah, he did. Body armor. 19-year-old wearing body armor in school. Are you kidding me?
Question
The thing
of
is,
the
he's
day.
19 and he.
All right, moving on. Is the FBI pushing an agenda in the Apple-San Bernardino case?
At 19, Jake, he's voting for Bernie.
Oh, he's still on this.
No, I'm done.
So a lawmaker on Tuesday accused the FBI of overstepping its bounds in an attempt to unlock the iPhone of one of the attackers of the San Bernardino attack. We talked about this before, how the FBI has issued a court order to Apple to build a back door into the operating system so that the FBI can get into this one phone, but it's not as simple as that. It would build a back door into every phone.
I like the quote in the article here. Quote, "We owe them a thorough and professional investigation under law. That's what this is. The American people should expect nothing less from the FBI." The FBI director wrote in a blog post. I'm sorry, the FBI, can you remind me again how many different scandals the FBI has been involved in from its inception?
They have a blog?
Yeah,
They don't have.
No, seriously.
I
Hey,
think
all
it's,
their-
I think
their-
it's at rubyridge.com. Yeah.
That's ATF.
Oh, is it? Okay.
So close, though. So close.
It's only a couple letters difference.
Well, they cross post, you know. They're the same.
Hey, does anybody know on this one? Are they trying to get him just to unlock this guy's particular phone, or is the method by which they're trying to get them to unlock the phone would provide a universal key?
For all the listeners at home that haven't been tracking this, so basically what FBI is trying to insist is, because Apple has said, you know, we can work on this. We'll take care of this phone. They've done it before. FBI is insisting that they install the security measures of like 2 or 3 operating systems back for the iOS, which allows them backdoor access to be able to access and decrypt all this stuff. Right now, even Apple cannot get at my data. They have built-in safeguards so that even they cannot, unless it's hardwired in their system at the hub. It's like a very kind of Superman, Lex Luthor kind of system where it's like, if you bring the phone to us, we have the tools, and they unleash, you know, a 400-acre server farm to crack this thing. But what they want them to do is drop the security measures of the current OS to be able to have the same backdoor they used to, and Apple says no. You can't, because we don't even do that. Because it's not just a hard fixed point security access, yada yada, single phone, single thing at a time. It's whenever they want. So right now, a lot of people don't realize law enforcement has access to your Facebook. Doesn't matter how private, locked down you are, et cetera, et cetera. Your Instagram profile doesn't matter. All those social media sites, there is Leo access for them to go and see exactly what you've been doing. That's how a lot of these cases are now looking to Facebook, to Twitter, and to Instagram and social media in general to gather that intel once an arrest or pending arrest has been made. You have the warrant, you can dig around. So by doing this, if Apple was to say, yes, it's okay, here you go, we're going to drop all security down to 3 years past, so to speak, so you can do this to whoever you want, you now open the floodgates for FBI, NSA, CIA, everything else, plus you set precedents to go ahead and, yep, we got a warrant, we went in, we saw where you were, how much you spent, where you spent it, how long you traveled, who you were on the phone with, who you were texting, and in real time. This isn't like a collecting and data and farming, it's in real time. Go ahead.
What I don't understand is it's been my impression that the NSA already has that capability. So what difference does it make?
Because they don't. They have burst stuff that they still have to sort through. So the difference being is that they can ping your number and then they can go ahead and collect all that data. Then they got to sort through it and then they got to make sense of it. As you text,
I'm gonna observe.
I'm wearing pink panties. They're like, haha, he's telling him he's got pink panties on. That's the difference.
All right, I'm gonna observe. I'm gonna dive deeper in that. I'm gonna observe OPSEC and say they have that capability. I know firsthand that they do. Okay, so what I'm saying is this: is that they do, like, there's an agency that already has real world access. They already have that capability. Maybe not like unlimited capability. Maybe there's certain aspects that they can't monitor, right? Regardless, what I'm saying is this, is that most of the information that is on your phone is also the same information that's on your computer, right? So like if you're using Gmail on your phone and it's linked to the Gmail account that you have on your computer, it's not so much about being able to get off the phone. They can still go read the same emails just by going to the server. And what I'm saying is, like, look, the clandestine services in America like to downplay their actual capabilities. I'm telling you that, right? They don't want to they don't want to show their full hand to the bad guy, right? That being said, what I'm saying is, this is my question because I still don't understand this. Can Apple show the FBI the information that's on that phone? Like, to me, it sounds like they got locked out of it, and all the AT&T needs, or not AT&T, all Apple needs to do is unlock the phone and let them look at the information there. Like, I could see it where, like, if the FBI went to Apple at Apple's facility, Apple unlocked it and let them look at it and write as many notes as they wanted. That would suffice. But it sounds like the FBI is trying to use this as a vessel to gain capabilities they don't need universally. Is that what's happening here? Because I'm still confused about it.
Yes and no. So from everything I've read and gathered from both inside and outside of Apple, yes, they have the capability to unlock and show what's in that phone. But they will only do it on a case-by-case basis. FBI wants access to do it at free will. Now, this is where I will tap on Adam, because the difference between having the capability of doing it at will currently and using that in court is two different things. The moment you give the FBI access, make it warrant accessible, things like that, now all that stuff that they can already do, or certain agencies and clandestine services can do in real time, can now be actionable intel in a courtroom, whereas before it's like, we know he's doing this, but we can't show anybody he's doing this, so now we know where to look and how to do better at it. Does that
So
make
that
sense?
would fall under wiretap laws. I mean, like, if they wanted to do that, it would fall under a wiretap.
And like I said, this is where I tap out.
judge.
We're outside of my depth.
You would, I would imagine, you'd need a warrant, or you need probable cause to search it. And I think at this point, either is probably fine. You know, you have a court order, so at that point, I don't know. It's a risky proposition. I think if it were limited to that specific phone, then it might be an easier argument for everybody to say, okay, Apple, go ahead and, you know, show them what's on the phone, or, you know, give them the data off the phone. But to give them unlimited, you know, some kind of like backdoor into every phone out there is just...
Well, and that's exactly what the FBI is asking for in this
Right.
scenario, is a backdoor to everyone's phone. And, you know, this has been botched from the beginning. Another article talks about how one of the local government agencies after this attack tried to get into that phone and accidentally wiped the phone. And so that's one of the issues here. They could have done some kind of easy restore process early on here, but they botched it up.
Yeah, and I think kind of tacking on to what Adam was saying earlier, you know, basic Fourth Amendment law, we're talking about you've got to have probable cause and a warrant, and not only that, the case law that develops Fourth Amendment law further, you're looking at describing with particularity and specificity the persons and things to be seized and places to be searched, and so that goes back to the original argument there, that if they were just looking at the phone only, the phone that was used by the terrorist, it wouldn't be an issue. But to give them a backdoor to everything is a real problem.
Well,
Well, look at this. When's the last time we heard the CIA or the NSA complain about Apple not being cooperative in helping them view data on phones, right? You've never heard that. Never heard that, right? And the reason for that is because the CIA is responsible for terrorists monitoring information overseas. It's supposed to be outside the borders. The FBI exists for inside our borders.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that it's illegal for the Central Intelligence Agency to spy on American citizens, right? If there's criminal activities occurring inside the United States, that falls on other federal departments such as the FBI or the DA or the ATF, right?
Yeah,
but that doesn't
absolutely.
mean that all those agencies don't work together for certain things. So what I'm saying is, I think, and I would dollars to donuts, that the FBI does not have the same capability that their buddies do, and they want the same capability. And the only way they can gain it is the agencies. The CIA is not going to give it to them. They have to get it from from Apple. That's how I feel about it. But the one question I have here: has the FBI or have they not had access to the information on that phone at this point? That's what I want to know. More so than this backdoor thing. Because here's the thing about this: is that the second that shooting went down, I called that for what it is. I said this is an act of terrorism. It's domestic terrorism, but it's still terrorism. It doesn't change that fact, right? The two individuals that were shooters traveled abroad, overseas, Middle Eastern countries for extended periods of time. So to me, that makes it something that the FBI is going to have to work hand in hand with the CIA, because maybe the CIA had them on their radar, or one of the other clandestine services have been monitoring these people. That's like where the cross-communication problem comes into play, and that was the whole point of the Patriot Act in the beginning. As terrible as the Patriot Act turned out, 9/11, when that occurred, no agency was talking to any other agency. There's information that should have been shared that wasn't shared because everybody wants to guard it close to their heart. So what I'm saying is this, is that the information on that phone has not been shared in any capacity whatsoever to the FBI, and it's affecting their current and sole investigation on these people, then that's nonsense. That information should have been provided by Apple. I don't agree with the backdoor access. I don't think the FBI needs that, and I think it should be case-to-case-to-case basis. But considering that Apple wants to sell cell phones to everybody in the world, they have to understand that this is going to be a reoccurring thing. Every crime that an iPhone is involved in, they expect somebody to knock on your door and say, hey, Apple, we need your help. They have to be willing to do that.
So what if they can't do that? Because I don't. There's another article out there.
There's no way they can.
That one of Apple's future goals is to build an iOS operating system that they can't. Even Apple can't build a backdoor to it once the operating system's built.
And that will be the phone that everybody that has any kind of nefarious intent will buy. So for me, I refuse to believe that they don't have that capability already, and I refuse to believe that they would do that.
Just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's true or not true.
The technology behind it, like for them to say we can't do that, it's Apple. Look at all the things that they've done. To not have that as a capability. If they're saying that from a design point of view, it's impossible. I don't believe that.
Speaking of design, Silencer Co's tech division releases ramped-up rangefinder. Nate, have you seen much about this? Have you got to play with anything like this? You have one?
You mean that guy? That guy right there? The radius?
It's on your website, isn't it?
It's on my rifle right now. Yeah. So the radius rangefinder is pretty much the coolest rangefinder ever made. I had a chance to see this thing back in September at Silencer Co's Industry Day, and basically you are hard pressed to find a rangefinder that gives you the same capability for a comparable price. So the thing comes in right below $1,000, and it ranges out to a mile. And it's really cool because most rangefinders are like small magnified rangefinders that you have to look through a lens, right? So it might be like 4-power magnification or whatever it might be, which is difficult if you're trying to range a target that's very small at really far distances. It's hard to use like a 4 or even an 8-power rangefinder to see the target you're trying to range. With this guy, what it does is it mounts on your weapon and it aligns with your primary optic, your day optic. And what it does is wherever you're pointing your reticle, it's ranging and it's reading out the range to you. So the nice thing about it, like if you shoulder the weapon, you can go from looking at your target like, oh, what's that? Is that something I want to shoot? Yes, it is. And you glance over at the readout and it's like, oh, 475 yards. Put your dope on your optic and then engage. So it's extremely quick to use. You're not putting your rifle down, picking up a rangefinder, and doing all this crazy stuff. I think it's a really cool product. I've been using it for the last couple of weeks, and I'm pretty stoked about it. So.
Sounds awesome.
This seems like something from the movies, from the future. Is this the first thing like this on the market?
No. It's the first viable commercial one like it. The military has one very similar to it.
Okay.
That's crazy expensive, and nobody likes because of how big it is and complicated it is. This is an extremely simplistic unit that's also upgradable. So it's meant to be modular, and as like technology changes, Silencer Co is going to be able to update it. So if you buy one radius rangefinder, you're going to be able to adapt it in the future for other applications.
Like bigger screens and touch screens and yada yada yada.
stuff like that. Yeah, maybe ballistic software, all kinds of stuff.
Interesting.
And that's so forward thinking. Very cool.
The price is really what gets me, because like most rangefinders capable of ranging at 1,000 yards or further that are quality and are going to hold up and are waterproof and everything that the radius is, most of them are well over the $1,000 mark. So the price alone is I think, going to sell them a lot of units. I really do.
That tax stamp money.
Yeah.
Is Gun Blocker the ultimate gun locking device?
What good's a locked gun?
Massachusetts and Connecticut would disagree with you.
Well, that sucks for them.
So it's an internal gun lock, unlike many others. So it goes, like, for example, on an AR-15, it inserts into the magazine well and locks with a key, so it completely blocks out, the ability for the rifle to chamber around or anything like that.
There was a different one I saw that was a smaller version of this. Who makes it? It's like Black Rain Ordnance, where it goes right into the actual chamber.
It's not Black Rain. It's oh god, I have one sitting.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Work. I have one sitting on my desk at work. You lock the bolt back, and it goes in the ejection port, and it locks in with a key.
And that's exactly what I'm thinking of. This just looks like a bigger, clunkier version of that.
Yeah, I forget who makes it, and that's gonna kill me. I was just talking to the owner of the company today too. Well, it doesn't matter. I can't remember.
How does it lock? Now I gotta watch this damn video.
Dude, it's 4
infomercial.
minutes long.
Oh my god.
So basically, this is a product that exists for people that don't live in free states and are too cheap to buy a gun safe.
Right. Like, why on earth would I lock this thing up? What good does it do me locked up?
I mean,
some would argue, once you have kids, it might be a good idea. I don't know.
Nope, no kids. Problem solved.
There's a million different ways of doing it, and I'm not going to sit here and shun any kind of new innovation, because you never know. We don't know what we don't know, and in reality, if this was faster than my fast access safe, then I'd look at it.
I don't know if Carter County Guns in Houston had these, but 10 guys drive off at the door to this gun store and grab 50 guns. And there was a video of them ripping the doors off this gun store and pouring in, 10 guys pouring into this gun store and just grabbing them like candy.
Should have had
I
gun
appreciate
blockers.
how hesitant. I appreciate how hesitant they were to smash the display cases at first. Like, wow, I can't believe they made it a full 30 seconds before they smashed the display cases and grabbed pistols.
Dude, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say that I read some of the comments from different places that the video was posted, and a lot of people serves the gun shop owner right for not putting the guns in the safe. So first off, looking just from the video, it looks like the guy's definitely in adherence to the ATF ruling of what security measures a gun safe needs, right? Or a gun company or a gun store needs. But for the sheer volume of guns that most shops have, or a shop of this size have, it'd be nearly impossible to put all those guns in some sort of ginormous safe at the end of the night. The locks are there to keep honest men honest. I mean, there's nothing that can't be defeated.
That's why the gate was there. They should probably hope that they pulled that license plate off that truck, because my guess is if the police were the least bit knew what they were doing, they would go look at security cameras from nearby buildings in the area and see if they could find that thing driving past, and at least get the guy who owned the truck, assuming it wasn't stolen, of course.
Yeah, pretty ballsy. They roll up with an F-250, hook some chains to the doors, and it's like a movie almost.
The thing interesting is how many people they swarm that shop with. It's it's more than a handful. It looks like a solid 15 or 20 people that ran in there.
It looks like a gang coming up, and they wanted to arm themselves. It's exactly what it looks like to me.
I would agree.
Take all the guns but no ammunition.
Oh, because they can get that later. It's smash and grab, bring as many guys as you can. Everyone grabs, 5 or 10 guns each, and I mean, if 15 people came in and they each grabbed 3, you now have 45 armed gang members.
Sure. Yeah.
I've honestly seen it, unfortunately.
So there's a companion local news, and this was actually posted a few days, I think, before this happened. But it's a local Houston news did like a expose on the Houston stolen gun market, and it says that the value of guns reported stolen topped 20.4 million in 2014. So 20 million guns were stolen statewide in Texas in 2014.
How many of them went to Mexico via the U.S. government? Take
I
that, ATF.
I don't
Boom.
think the U.S. government's hiring Chico to go rip the doors off the building
Yeah, you say that today.
today. But we'll be watching the Hunger Games from Nate Murr's couch.
All right, kids' reactions to finding guns leave some parents shocked.
This is
So-
why I had my fist pumped in the air. I'm doing it right.
So a group of youngsters were put to test in Iowa. A local police department and TV station put this test on where they, usual scenario where they leave a real-looking gun out and let these, file these kids in and see what they do with it when there's no parental supervision. And, it took just a few seconds for most of the kids to pick it up, but two kids never attempted to touch the gun or become in the play with the gun or become involved in playing with the gun. And those 2 kids were the only 2 kids that had previously been taught gun safety in their own homes.
Now, Jake, you have kids, right?
Yeah, not too many to count.
And Nathan, Beardy McBeardsley. Oh, damn it, you both have beards. New Nathan. Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have one 18-month-old, and I hear the story and I just think, man, you gotta take away the mystery for these kids. Just familiarize them with guns. Let them see the gun, and when they're old enough, take them to the range and handle it. But it's really a maturity issue, I guess, as far as what age is appropriate. But if kids are exposed to this stuff, and of course you don't want them doing it while they're alone, teach them mom and dad need to be around when you look at the gun. It's not going to be this wild mystery, and you've got 8 kids in the room or however many it was that were not familiar with firearms and going around pointing it at each other and pulling the trigger.
My 1-year-old German Shepherd carries a pistol, and he hasn't done anything bad with it.
But he's 7, technically. So I mean,
He's 7, so he's still a child. But what I'm saying is, like, when I was a kid, I grew up on a dairy farm, right? So we had a rifle rack in the pickup truck. There's guns everywhere, and I was taught from childhood, like as early as I can remember things, I can remember guns, right? But it was taught to me that you can look at every gun in this house if you want, but you have to ask before you do it. And I knew in my heart of hearts that if I as much as laid a finger on a buttstock of a rifle in the living room, that somehow my dad would know and I would get a whooping, right? Definitively knew that.
Yep.
Knew that's what was going to happen. But the cool thing about it was no matter how many times, and my dad had a rifle in the living room. It was unloaded and ammo was nowhere near it and stuff. For whatever reason, I called it my dad's elephant gun. And I remember being like 5 years old. I'm like, Daddy, I want to look at the elephant gun. And my dad would say, okay, hold on. And he would show me how to clear the weapon and go through all the safety rules of handling a firearm and reinforce that it's a deadly implement and that it can take your life and it's not a toy, right? So like that's exactly what happened. He demystified it. So after 5 times in one day, my dad never once said no. Never once said no. So the mystique, the mystery of it burned off, and I think a lot of this has to do with parenting, and I think this little experiment kind of shows that parenting carries a lot of weight. The 2 kids that have been exposed to firearms, they didn't touch it, and all the other kids that probably live in gun-free homes or guns are bad or whatever, they're mystified because children are naturally curious. But the other aspect of this is that bear in mind there's absolutely no, as far as I know of, there's virtually no public schools that teach any kind of relevant firearm safety to children. right? Like there used to be schools where there's rifle and pistol teams, and now there's hardly any, unless you go to like the Bible Belt. So if you've never touched a
Welcome
gun,
to Nashville.
yeah, you've never touched a gun, and nobody's ever told you what to do when you find a gun, then how can we expect a child to know what to do? There used to be a program called Eddie the Eagle where the NRA would send people out to talk to children about guns, but apparently, people don't want people teaching children how to safely handle firearms, which is don't touch it, go find an adult and tell them. That was the program, and that was apparently too hardcore conservative for public school.
Jake, do you do anything?
It's funny you ask. I just purchased my first firearm to teach my kids because my oldest is 6. So this year I'm going to be diving into really hardcore teaching them how to shoot on the range. So I picked up a little single-shot cricket rifle, but even with their toy guns, we're all always telling them don't point it at people. And with the real ones, if they want to see it, we go over the safety rules and everything.
Were you raised with guns?
Yeah, I had definitely had guns in the household, and I really didn't shoot them until I was 9 or 10. It was a little bit later for me.
The reason why I ask is because I think I'm the only person probably here that was not raised in a gun household. I was actually raised in a very anti-gun household, and look how that turned out. But
me too, Eddie.
Without that knowledge, that upbringing, I'm like, yay, I'm doing it right, because to me it was for lack of a better term, porn. We didn't talk about sex or things like that, and health class or whatever, which taught us at like 9th or 10th grade, it didn't really do what it was that we were doing. So like porn was the mystic thing. So I try and relate guns to porn when asking my mom, which is a sentence I never thought I'd actually say out loud, and ask my mom what she thought about certain things, because I know she's anti-gun. She knows what I do for a living, and I'm glad to see that with no prior knowledge and just taking in and absorbing all the stories, like Nate's stories, and trainers and other guys, law enforcement, military guys I've talked to that have kids. It's kind of that's a dynamite story and video to see, and it's confirmation that okay, cool. So my kid knows that's a gun. He knows not to touch it. Not only that, we validated that with some experiences here in the home, and cool. Like I'm doing it right. Like for a parent, that's kind of a win in my eyes, and not to have the kid that's waving the gun around and
like
doing things.
For me, like I was trusted to have my 22 bolt action with ammunition in my room when I was 10 years old. Like I was allowed to have guns in my room, right? I never did anything stupid with it. The funny thing about it was I was forbidden from owning a BB gun. I was not allowed to have a BB gun. And I brought this case to my dad one day. I'm like, Dad, you trust me to have a rifle and ammunition in my room. Why can't I have a BB gun? He's like, because BB guns do only get little boys in trouble. That's all that BB guns are good for. He's like, why? He's like,
he's right though.
He's like, why would you want to go shoot a BB gun when you can go shoot a rifle anytime you want? Like, you want to go shoot in the backyard, go shoot in the backyard. I'm like, well, that's a good point. And the funny thing about it was he was dead right, because I really wanted the BB gun so I could participate in the BB gun wars that the other kids in my neighborhood were doing. Like I couldn't play. I didn't have a BB gun.
Sorry, can't play, guys. I'll end up killing you.
Yeah, like. But what I'm saying is a trust thing. Like I was entrusted with that, and I don't think that my parents would have allowed me to have a firearm in my room at that age if I wasn't trustworthy. So I think part of it is how you raise your children with guns, and the other aspect is how much you really trust your children.
So not to get off on a tangent, but with that logic, in modern days now, would you trust your child with airsoft?
I don't know. Like airsoft, I think is a little bit safer than throwing a steel pellet at like 500 feet per second. So, like,
Plastic biodegradable at 400.
Listen, if I got like a 12-year-old kid that like I grew up like loving military stuff, right? Everybody knew I was going to grow up and go to the service someday, right? So for me, like, I reenacted World War II in high school, like a huge nerd, because I was a huge nerd. I was a huge history buff.
You still
So
are.
I didn't say I'm not a nerd anymore, right? But what I'm saying is, like, if I got a 12-year-old boy, like, someday if I am blessed with a son of my own, right? And he's all about, like, whatever. He wants to go do the Milsim airsoft thing, and he wants to go dress up in multicam and shoot other 12-year-old boys with a Mark 18 airsoft gun. I can't help but support that. I'm like, I want to do that kind of. It seems kind of fun, but unfortunately, it also will open me to ridicule from all you guys, so I can't go play Army. You
I
know?
do that in a heartbeat. Mike, he wants to go do airsoft. Where? Let's go.
Dude, I'll go play airsoft. I'll shoot up some 16-year-olds.
But it's reinforcing the understanding that, like, one thing is like a sport or a toy, or it doesn't cost human life, and the other thing is something that's capable of causing damage and taking life if handled irresponsibly. So what I'm saying is, like, if you can't trust your kid with the most basic of tasks or the most, like, basic responsibilities in your household, then I would say it's like you might have two sons and one's super responsible and the other one isn't responsible. Well, what do you do then? I hate to say it because everybody's child is a precious little snowflake, and nobody wants to think that their kid's capable of having an accident with a gun or doing something bad with a gun. But that's not the world we live in. You know, like, nobody thinks that their 16-year-old kid's going to wrap a car around a telephone pole, but every day 16-year-old kids prove their parents wrong.
This is
So
true.
I grew up in a house that didn't have guns. I remember, and actually, it's sitting over here by my gun safe. I have the BB gun that I had as a kid. I was over at my parents' house the other day. My dad was like, "Do you want this thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." You know, it's some pump action. I don't know. But I learned to shoot guns in Boy Scouts. I'll never forget it. It was a bolt action Marlin 22 at Camp Horseshoe in Rising Sun, Maryland, and I had this stupid smile that has not left my face since the day it was put on there. And it deteriorated from there. That's what I look forward to every summer, going to Camp Horseshoe and going to the rifle range and going to the shotgun range. And then I turned 18, bought a shotgun, was told to get rid of it, and as you can tell, that worked out real well. And now, actually, my dad is now a gun owner himself, and it was just same thing. He grew up in a house without guns, and nobody ever took him shooting, and it was amazing. One day he came up to me and asked, can we go shooting? And all of a sudden, that stupid smile I had was now plastered all over his face, and it was just one of those things where he wasn't exposed to it, so he didn't understand that they aren't as bad and scary as everyone makes them out to be. So I missed out as a child growing up of having guns in the house, being taught gun safety and stuff, and I learned all that from scouting. But I certainly, if I have, if I'm so, I guess, fortunate to have offspring at some point, I fully intend on introducing them and demystifying it so that they do grow up and be safe with it. And I had friends who grew up with guns, and I saw how their parents did it, and I look forward to learning from people who have kids how they do it so that it can be done safely.
Soldier of Fortune magazine to stop publishing after 40 years.
I'm surprised they made it as long as they did. I mean, like, look, people demonize mercenaries like they're a bad thing, which, having served in the American military and having fought for America, I don't think there's anything wrong with a former soldier wanting to go on and do it for profit and potentially gain significantly more serving an entity or a corporation than he's going to be compensated in his own service, right? Like, oh, I'm making $200,000 a year to do private security, when instead, if I would have stayed in uniform, I could be making an extra $150 combat pay. Gee, I wonder what I'm going to do, right? But Soldier of Fortune, it wasn't like, people always make it out to be the mercenary mag. It was advertised and kind of pushed as an adventure magazine in the same way that, like, back during the Victorian, like, post-Victorian era, it was very sexy for men to go join the Foreign Legion, right? It was that yearn for adventure and to go do whatever, right? Go to exotic places and have stories to tell your grandkids someday. But the magazine itself has always been, in my opinion, like haphazardly thrown together. It's not quality as far as like the quality of the paper and the photography and everything else. I mean, it's not a high-end magazine. It's not National Geographic. It's a limited circulation magazine that appeals to a very niche market. So the fact that, I mean, this is, I write for Recoil magazine. I write for Off Grid. I've written for other publications. I've written a bunch of online articles, and I'm going to say right now, like, online media is killing the print word, right? And for a very niche market, which would be Soldier of Fortune's readership, I'm surprised that they lasted as long as they did. I really am. And the guy keeping it alive is the guy that started the magazine, and he's a Vietnam-era Green Beret, so he's getting up there in the years. There's a lot of things. I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm surprised that they lasted.
I've never read a Soldier of Fortune.
I've never seen one.
Neither have I. But now I'm curious. I'm going to go check out their online stuff and their Facebook. Maybe I'll go like them.
That was the one thing I took away from the article, was that the online stuff is more or less, that's where their readership is now, so they don't necessarily even need to incur the cost of printing anything anymore.
The thing is, it's a magazine that's been the butt end of a lot of jokes for a very long time. It's a magazine that's always referenced when the anti-gun people always talk about gun magazine, like Guns and Ammo and Soldier of Fortune are like the two gun magazines that everybody knows, right? And it is what it is. Like I said, it was a niche market and a niche publication, but I'm not necessarily sure it's a bad thing for it to go to being online exclusively.
We are to the I'm offended section. I'm not necessarily offended, but somebody here is. X Products says, we did not tell CNN we support high-capacity magazine licensing. So I don't know if you guys caught it this week on social media, but it came out that I think the co-owner of X Products or co-founder came out on CNN saying that he supported high-capacity magazine restrictions or licensing.
Jake, did you notice that his last name was Malarkey?
I did. So yeah, maybe it's a bunch of malarkey.
I think that says it all.
I mean, like the guy made the mistake of interviewing with CNN, so
right.
I'm not terribly sympathetic about this.
He made an even bigger mistake. If you read what he says here, he said, just so you guys know my side of the story, the quote is completely out of context and not what I said at all. The interview I had was 30 minutes long. I was asked a variety of questions. They took bits and pieces and, out of. He said the only thing I said was I would consider a step licensing law where we had access to everything, but it was the only thing I'd consider as a middle ground if there were no other options. Well, dude, like, come on, man, really?
That's. I mean, like, I think what his intent was with that comment was, like, if you had it where, like, a CCW, like we were talking at the beginning of the show about if you have a CCW, you don't have to do a NICS check, right? If there was, like, a process or a permit that is universal for the rest of your life and allows you to buy anything you want, including machine guns and suppressors and all that other stuff, if that was the form of restriction and there was no other recourse, maybe he would support that, or that would be something he would support. I understand. I know where you're going with this, Adam, because you're going to talk about
I'm good. I'll
infringement, right? But the thing is, like, right now, all the anti-gunners are really pushing for more stringent gun control laws, right? And every year, like, I guarantee, like, next month or maybe 2 months from now, there's going to be somebody that does something terrible with a firearm, just like that guy in Kansas did who was denied access but still got guns, right? Every time there's a tragedy, they always point towards mental health, right? So, like, I don't know. I'm not supporting of anything. Anybody that's a U.S. citizen and in good mental health and isn't a felon should be allowed to own whatever they want to own, in my opinion. But I'm just saying, like, the guy didn't explain it properly what he felt. The other thing is everybody's entitled to their own opinions and how they feel about it, including fellow gun owners, including fellow manufacturers that make 50-round drum magazines.
Sure. Sure, they're also entitled to the backlash of voicing that opinion.
Right, which we're doing now, right? I didn't say I was an advocate for this, but
I never said you were. I'm just saying, you say something in the public domain, and be it what you truly believe, or if it's taken out of context, or what have you, there's always the potential it'll come back to bite you in the ass.
And it did for Bill Ruger. I mean, I'll remind everybody that Bill Ruger, the former, he's dead now, but the guy that started, Ruger Firearms, didn't think that civilians had any need for magazines more than 20 rounds. And that up till recent years, it was next to impossible to get any Ruger firearm with a magazine that held more than 10 or 15 rounds. Like, it was Mini 14s in particular. Good luck trying to find a Ruger factory 30-round magazine. Like, it was unobtainium. But that was because of Bill Ruger, the guy who owned a rifle company, didn't feel that we needed 30-rounders. So that obviously did not help his company. There's a lot of people still angry that Bill felt that way.
Oh, I'm sure he's rolling in his grave with them now, making silencers with his name on it. Come full circle. Don't you worry, Bill Ruger.
CVS manager fired after fighting back against armed robbers, and he was unarmed. He fought back with his own two hands. This happened in Maryland. A pharmacy was robbed Friday night by two thugs. They jumped over the pharmacy counter and started loading up on narcotics after prying the safe open with a screwdriver. The robbers made their way to the door, but this CVS manager blocked their escape and disarmed them of the screwdriver and held them for police. And then CVS has since fired him.
Is it just me, or are you seeing less stories like this than you used to, or is it just being publicized less? Because I feel like this is all kind of corporate policy dictated from the super litigious society of 1990 to early 2000, and there was recently, I think a couple weeks back, a GM corporate headquarters. He wasn't a valet, but he was like security. I guess he saved a woman from being stabbed to death by shooting a guy, and he was promptly removed from the grounds, and that caused a big stir. The mayor pardoned him, and a bunch of people stepped in. But it's that's two stories in the past 3 weeks that we've seen.
He was actually unfired in that situation, I think.
Right. It was oh no, we didn't say get him out of here, no, but he was walked off.
Yeah. Well, this guy, the quote from this manager, he says, "I did 7 years in the military and a year overseas, and that instinctive behavior is something that you just can't turn off like a switch."
Yeah, that's a tough. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Murr. I didn't mean to.
No, I want to. You go first because I'm interested.
Yeah, I mean, I used to work for General Motors. I spent 8 years with them in manufacturing there, and I've done some employment law as well. And it's a tough call from the standpoint of an employer, because you got to look at it as I have certain safety protocols, and that's how they're viewing this. This is our safety policy and safety practice that we don't want to engage in a violent confrontation, whatever that may be. Now, from a personal standpoint, obviously, I say, go CVS manager, beat the crap out of this guy. But you can definitely see from the employer standpoint, they have certain practices, policies, procedures they want to follow. And if they actually commend the person for doing that, it can open them up to additional liability later down the road when the next guy maybe doesn't act with as cool of a head and does something that's out of line.
Yeah, but you know what? The kid could have done one wrong move, and he could have failed and you could have lost that, right? And
yeah, absolutely.
So here's my thing though. It's I look at it like this. I don't care about corporate policy, right? I only care about law. So the thing is corporate policy does not trump my inherent right to self-defense. So until I work for an employer that's going to assign an armed former Delta Force commando to walk around with me and guard me everywhere I go with my day-to-day activities at work, I'm going to carry a gun. So I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't broken the law, but I've worked jobs where I was told I'm not allowed to have a firearm, and guess what? I still had a firearm because there's nobody else there with a firearm to protect me. So my employer doesn't care if I pay my rent. It's not their responsibility for my fridge to be full of food or for there to be a roof over my head. It's my responsibility to protect myself. So what I'm saying is, like, with all this stuff like Buffalo Wild Wings and Starbucks and all this other nonsense where somebody makes a corporate policy that this is a gun-free zone, unless I'm breaking the law, I have no moral obligation to adhere to company policy. Just like everybody takes pens home from the office, well, that's technically stealing. So you're doing bad things at work regardless.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know, I've done the same thing. You know, carried at places I've been told, yeah, you shouldn't. You're not supposed to do that. But I also know at the same time, okay, if somebody identifies me, my boss or a coworker or whatnot, sees, you know, the clips on my concealed carry rig or something, and point that out, I'm willing to deal with the consequences, because to me, my life is more important than potentially losing a job.
You can always get another job.
Right.
You can always there's always going to be a need for people to go hang drywall. There's always going to be a need for somebody to do yard work.
The world needs ditch diggers too.
The world needs ditch diggers too, right? So oh, I'm sorry that you lost your minimum wage job at CVS.
But you have to be alive to do those jobs.
You gotta be alive to do that job.
So before Four Guys Guns, I did big box retail. I was a consultant.
Did you work at the Genius Bar?
No, I did not. We're talking big box, and I was kind of hit or miss, and I valued the paycheck and being able to provide, so you adhere to policies. The day that all changed was the day of Sandy Hook, and when you're sitting there during holiday season in a Best Buy, a freaking whatever, and you see 1,500 people just all cattle penned in. Yeah, you kind of don't want to be the one without one, because not because of the rush or Black Friday, because after seeing the evil that can come into a building of children in Sandy Hook, what would happen to grown-ups all cattle penned in, dying for the new widget gadget Mick X Fury, for that holiday season, and just start doing something evil? I didn't want to be. I had people that knew what I did outside of work, and they were like, "If anything ever goes wrong, I'm coming to you." And that's a cool feeling, but it's also a lot of responsibility, because now all of a sudden people are now counting on you because they know, wink wink, who you are. And not that I'm a superhero or anything, just I was the guy with the gun. So it's kind of a weird feeling when you have to cross that threshold for people who do adhere to corporate policy and don't know better concealed carry methods than untucking their NRA vest over their Blackhawk Serpa, and that's concealed. I don't know.
I'm trying to think. I think since I've been 21, I think I've carried a gun to every job I've ever had, and I don't think any of my I worked at a landscape company, and I didn't tell anybody about it, and then somebody saw it, and my boss was like, "Oh, you have a gun?" and got really excited, and then started buying all the guns I wanted to buy, so I hated him for that. Then I worked at a gun shop, and I still do, so obviously we carry guns there, and my boss has an anti-tank rifle onto the back of his desk at the law firm, so I'm pretty sure guns are okay there, too.
We're moving on. Overflow section here. Extra stories, too much to cover. But if you support us via Patreon and get a chance to talk with us during the after show, we can talk about some of these extra stories. So check it out, patreon.com/week. Amazon, you can contribute to the Firearms Radio Network and This Week in Guns by shopping Amazon. You can bookmark firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. And a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. And quick tip here, if you would buy one of every item on Amazon, it would only cost you $12.8 billion. So, in case
buy all the things twice.
Yeah.
You guys want to split it 4 ways?
I got 4.2 million to Wait.
We are
Yeah,
to the
no,
fall
you're right.
auto news segment, stories the real media won't talk about, and other crazy stuff. Each of the hosts picks a story to call their own. Who's ready?
I've got one if no one else
All right,
does.
go at 'em.
So this one's Meet Captain Crunch, the Pentagon gun muncher that has destroyed 1 million firearms. I just want to say this makes me incredibly sad inside, especially because my next project I'm working on is a 607 clone, like a retro. It's like the granddaddy of the collapsible butt stocks and stuff, retro uh, like carbine, and to see this thing where they're literally just dumping history into and it's just getting shredded is kind of sad, especially when you see quotes here like there are guys who are into guns that operate the thing and they're like, wow, I've never seen one of these before. Let's shred it because we have to do that. So basically, it's a giant machine that there's some days like approximately 2,500 guns would go through it. Or 500 to 600 pistols would go through it, and it shreds them and makes them unserviceable or probably unrecognizable for that matter. I don't know. I mean, I guess obviously they can't necessarily be sold to the civilian market, but at the same time, it's kind of sad to see like history just getting cut up like that.
All right, I'll do mine now because this one made me kind of angry. So this article is Marine who peed on dead Taliban turns in girlfriend for murder plot, written by Jennifer Cruz at guns.com. So first off, this article is just stupid, right? The whole thing is about this woman who's dating a former Marine Corps Scout sniper who decides that she wants to murder her ex-husband. So she goes to her boyfriend, who was one of the Marines that was involved in an incident back in 2011 that he was one of the dudes that peed on this Taliban fighter. And the Marine Corps had a huge investigation. It was a much ado over nothing, right? This article's not even newsworthy, first off, right? And the whole thing about like the ex-Marine infamous for peeing on dead Taliban fighters, I'm so tired of hearing about this. What would have been a much better article to read was the fact that this Marine, one of his teammates, was just buried in Arlington last week. That's an article that I would have read and would have been worth telling, but that's not what Jennifer Cruz wrote. So that's my angry review of a stupid article that's not even newsworthy.
A stupid article.
It's stupid. You know, those Marines, every last one of those Marines got relieved over that. And nobody cares what they suffered through the days leading up to that incident. Emotions ran high, and it's like they're still demonized for it. You know, like, yeah, was it a tactful or tasteful thing? No. But until you were there, I don't really think that people condemn them over the one thing that they did wrong in comparison to all the really good things they did on that deployment. In lighter news, Whitey.
Colt M16 found on side of the road gets fast reunion.
That was a good one.
I mean, literally, not only did a police officer leave his full auto rifle, was it full auto? Colt 604 with Colt-made M16 lower, U.S. government markings, semi-auto, left his service rifle on the roof of his vehicle, lost it in a corner. It was found by somebody who decided to post it on a website.
For sale.
But, like, Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, like, California, this is like a thing that law enforcement does. Just to... Okay, I'm done. I just made faces for everyone who's listening.
You can check out our YouTube broadcast for Whitey's faces.
For faces.
All right. Nate Barrett, what do you have?
I liked the article Whitey liked as well. I was looking at the M16 on the side of the road. What I thought was funny about it was the passerby, I guess, identifies this. Is that right, Whitey?
Yeah, the guy who found it.
Yeah,
I guess totally lawn darted into the side of the.
but then the the law enforcement officer that actually responded to pick it up, they're attempting to keep this discreet, but yet he posts this on this forum, and now it's on guns.com. So,
and now it's on Gun Guy Radio. And
twice.
Yeah, he's getting in trouble. I could have gone with the Airburst XM25.
Which is more non-news. They tested that thing in Afghanistan like 5 years ago, and it just dropped off the face of the earth. Like
they're gonna get serious,
hey,
donate.
Hey, now the war is pretty much over. We're gonna give you this really cool anti-deflate weapon. Oh, thanks, guys. Glad you drug your feet on that one.
You couldn't have used that. I mean, but now.
All right, Nate, do you have another one since Whitey took yours?
Yeah, I like this. This animal rights activist released 400 mink and gets 3 years. Spray paints "Liberation is love" after turning loose these animals, and so he got 3 years for that. Way to go!
This is the kind of person that's going to be like, "I'll proudly serve my 3 years because I helped," until
somebody tells them they all died.
until your first shower, and then this is when Trevor realized he done effed up.
Yeah, here's the classic quote. "A lot of them got hit by cars, and a lot we found in a cornfield dead. They were hand-reared and didn't know how to hunt, so many of them starved to death."
Seems like you did a real good thing there by letting them all go.
Oh my God!
Jeez.
Drop the EMP. Drop the EMP. Just freaking drop it already.
So, is it my turn? Did everyone go?
It is.
Boy, there's so many. Let's go with the Tommy guns with bling. That's right. Auto Ordnance is releasing the reproduction of the classic Tommy gun, and you can get one that is in a gold finish. That's right, all gold Tommy gun. Who's in?
Who's making this thing?
Auto Ordnance.
Auto
Where is
Ordnance.
this?
Oh,
They're part of
Let's
what?
see it.
Car?
first
who's
off,
the
any
parent
Tommy
company?
gun with a 16-inch barrel is stupid. Okay, if it's not like a factory SBR, it's not even worth looking at.
Okay. I see who's the Tommy gun snob on
I
this
can't
program.
find the article.
Dude, Tommy guns are cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, it was like the first submachine gun ever made. They used to sell Tommy guns in Field and Stream magazine.
Thank you.
Yeah, like mail order. Like, you send like a self-addressed envelope with a check in it, and they sent you a Tommy gun. Like, how
For
cool is that?
$250.
Which was like probably like $30,000 at the time. But no, like all these 16-inch barrel guns, I just think I've seen so many of them. I've handled them. They're nice. They're well-made guns. They're just like if it's not what is it, a 12-inch barrel is what I think Tommy gun left the factory from originally. I think it's a 12-inch
It was
barrel.
much shorter than this.
Yeah,
That's a space gun right there. That's
it just doesn't look right. It doesn't
does.
matter.
That's because
I mean,
it isn't right. That's a travesty. It's gold. Come on, what does it belong to, Saddam Hussein or a rapper?
It's El
Yes.
Chapo.
Or El Chapo? Yeah, there's another one.
It's like how do you neuter a submachine gun any more than making it semi-automatic and putting a 16-inch barrel on it?
but it's got a drum.
At $2,963.
Just kill my dream. Just walk all over my dream.
What is this?
All right, what'd you find?
I didn't watch it yet.
Oh.
I've got one.
Okay, Adam, you go.
So this one's I actually this shows you how twisted I am apparently. Guy lucky to be alive following Russian roulette fail. That's a video.
Oh, I'll close that link.
So this guy decided for some reason it was a good idea to not only record this but play Russian roulette with himself. So the videos of him with this stupid smile on his face as he pulls the trigger once and nothing happens, and then he pulls it again and boom. He doesn't kill himself apparently. He just skimmed the top of his head with that bullet. But you get to watch Darwinism at work. And it's rather incredible to watch.
I'm surprised he didn't do the high point super mod pistol. I wish John Patton was one, so I
Oh
could
my
just.
god! Somebody call him.
So there's this. First off, like the whole thing with high points is just miserable. They've recently released a high point pistol that has like a hydro dip of $100 bills, right? So some people decided it was a great idea to take a high point and basically take copper plumbing and make this terrible muzzle brake for it out of half-inch copper pipe, and it's an abomination. It's just so terrible. This is what I don't understand. Like, right? It's like High Point appeals specifically to the criminal element, right? It's like they know criminals are going to buy their guns or get their guns, right? I was watching Cops last night, and they busted this guy, and they're like, oh, he's got a 9mm, and guess what it was? It was another High Point. I don't understand how the ATF is not like, they just don't post an agent at the factory of High Point. They would probably save a lot of time by doing that.
Well, next up would be Ruger, because that's the next one. Unfortunately, it's High Points and Rugers that are most evidence lockers.
Yeah.
All right. I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Watch the U.S. Air Force gunship test fire its 105mm. Yes, there is video, external and internal, of this thing parked on the tarmac, and this massive freaking gun. And you watch an AC-130. Guys, an AC-130, its tire is bigger than me. And you watch this whole thing shake like a tractor trailer in 40-mile-an-hour winds. Whoa, 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 whoa. It is awesome. Oh, my God. It is so awesome. And you just watch, and then you watch from the inside, and you watch that whole thing freaking rocket through. Could you imagine trying to fly that thing while that's going off? It's just like, oh, there goes the butt again. Oh, there goes the butt again.
So, like, the Spectre AC-130 is, like, one of the coolest aircraft ever made. And the neat thing is, like, they mostly only fly at nighttime because, like, when they get in their holding pattern and they're overhead, like, you can shoot them down pretty easy, right? But they have a slew of other weapons on them. I think one's a 40mm chain gun. I can't remember what all they carry. There's different variants of AC-130 gunship, too. But, like, if all the 30mm, I'm sorry, a 30mm cannon, and
137 howitzer.
They can drop all kinds of other ordnance and stuff. But in case you really, really, really want those guys dead, a 105mm howitzer on the back end of the plane is the final screw you after you did a gun run.
It's so anybody who's listening, go check the show notes, check the link out. It's a pretty cool little video to watch, and then it leads you down the rabbit hole of watch all this cool YouTube stuff on AC-130s. I agree with Murray. It's definitely one of the coolest little things that the human American brain concocted right there with the SR-71 Blackbird, the B-17, and the B-2.
Well, the thing about the AC-130, like the Spectre, it goes back to Vietnam with Puff the Magic Dragon was the original gunship, right? They're like, hey guys, like, we got like this big cargo plane, right? And we started getting like these miniguns, these brand new like, General Electric mini. What if? I'm just saying.
Just spitballing here.
I got some tin snips. What if we cut like a hole in the side of it and started putting guns out the side of that cargo plane? And they're like, dude, let's do it. No way, let's try it out. And it turned out to be a great idea for close air support during Vietnam, and they just kept it going afterwards.
If you dig through that hole on YouTube, you can get a couple videos on there of guys that were out there when these things were going to town. And dude, I would not want to be wherever those things are aimed. It is horrifying. You're like, how did anything survive in there?
The great thing about it is it's a prop plane, right? So at night, on a night mission, if you have a Spectre on station, like it's there for you and your mission, hearing the sound of that bird overhead is like the most like reassuring. Like even if we all die, those dudes are gonna murder this entire city. It's like the most reassuring thing in the world.
Jesus. A better sound or equal sound than a Warthog coming through?
I would take an AC-130 Spectre over a Warthog any day. They're one-trick ponies. I mean, the A-10's a good aircraft, don't get me wrong, but the thing is, like, both, like, everybody wants to get rid of both. They want to get rid of the Warthog, and they want to get rid of the Spectre, and both of them provide a very valuable and each unique role on the battlefield. So I hope they keep them both forever.
Isn't that 30 millimeter the same one that is on the Warthog? Somebody's asking in the YouTube.
I'm not sure. I think it's a different weapon. I know that there's when they developed 30 millimeter, which I have a round of it somewhere. It's a dummy round. It's not live, right? But
So
I know
so common for everyone to say that.
they developed it to work in numerous. It was like a joint project. They wanted a round that worked for a bunch of different applications. So the cartridge was designed to work in as many weapon systems as possible. So the cartridge most certainly is the same, but as far as the platform, it might be different. Because the ammo drum for an A10 Warthog, the ammo storage compartment, the magazine, if you will, because that's actually what it is, the magazine is the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. So.
Well, if you enjoy this show and would like to support us through our Patreon program and possibly hear Nate go on for hours and hours after the show about AC-130s and so on, you can pledge at the $10 level to reserve the right for exclusive after-show hangouts up to 2 times per month. So check that out, patreon.com/week. And check out Patriot Patch Company, the new Come and Take It t-shirt for the kids. Also going to release an adult version of the Come and Take It Nerf t-shirt. And new pre-orders are live, patriotpatch.co. So we're going to take a moment here and see what the panelists have been up to. So Adam, what's up in the world of the
the lawyering,
the Esquire lifestyle?
The Esquire lifestyle. I've never heard it referred to as that before. I don't know.
I hear you have your own magazine.
Who told you that? I'm unaware that I have my own magazine. I did have an article published recently in a local bar association on prohibited persons and lawyers failing to advise their clients as to what a prohibiting offense is, and then these individuals becoming prohibited persons for life. What are we doing, man? We're pissing off everybody. We're suing people because that's what we do. We're finally getting somewhere with Harrisburg and our right to know as far as who is donating to the Defend Harrisburg Fund, and that was in relation back to the lawsuit that the NRA filed against Harrisburg after the state passed that new preemption statute that's being challenged. So it's actually just, there's a whole lot going on there. But the biggest thing right now for me, other than the legal work I need to do, is the machine gun shoot, which I am working very diligently on to make sure is going to be awesome. We have a number of vendors that have signed up. We have more that are inquiring on seems like a daily basis. That's gonna be.
Justice Kraut, would that be the machine gun shoot on April 30th that you speak of?
Yes, it would. And I'm not a justice of anything. So it's April 30th up in Monroe, Pennsylvania. It's hosted by the Shooter's Gauntlet. That's the owner of the property. It's like 1,100 acre property. It's got 1,000+ yard range on it. That's going to be open during that time. There's going to be a zip line you can go down and shoot stuff off of. There's an inversion wall, and then obviously the main event, the machine gun shoot, and a separate range for silencers where you can come demo some of the newest silencers on the market, so you can make your decision as to what you want to buy and then buy it later on. So that's going to be a good time. There's going to be a bunch of us there. I know Jake's got two booths going to be there. I presume that most of the people that are regulars on the show will appear at some point, mainly because we're mostly, well, it seems like a lot of us are Pennsylvania guys, but I'll certainly be there. So if you are planning on coming, the website's stonemachinegun.com. You can pre-register now. It's $25 to get in for both days. You can come track me down, shoot me an email, let me know you'll be there, say hi to me. I'm more than happy to say hi, talk with people, what have you. So that's probably the biggest thing now.
Very cool. Yeah, looking forward to it. Absolutely, I'll be there. You can look for the guys on this show and other shows on the Firearms Radio Network, possibly lounging at the Firearms Radio Network booth. So yeah, check it out if you're anywhere in the Northeast. The end of April, 1st of May, we'll be there.
And the link is in the show notes, by the way, so if you do look at those, it's all up there.
Josh, Four Guys Guns, what's up?
Busy. Still unloading some of our stuff from the members' vault. We have a new review coming up next week of the RE Factor Tactical Target Systems and how it can benefit you as a shooter. Really interesting stuff. I didn't think I would learn so much from a paper target on my own as I did both watching my wife do it, who makes her first appearance in a Four Guys Guns video, as well as trying it myself. The biggest news of the past 3 years for me is something that me and Monkey have worked on, a separate business venture, but we're helping to promote, and that's the Falcor Defense Velocity Extension. It went live tonight. This was a product that I felt we could make better and do better with, and it is a +5 for 9mm extension for a Glock 17. There you go. Nate Mer's holding one up right now.
It's glorious.
And it goes on with, I mean, you could use a paper clip, use one of the tiny Allen keys. You have 8 million lying around from all the little parts you buy. It goes on and off super easy. It adds 5 rounds, adds weight. If Nate can see the mag properly.
It drops free, I'll tell you that.
It drops free and drops fast. It's super sturdy and just made to take a pounding. It's ergonomically designed so that when you are going to grab the magazine in any kind of carrier, whether it's in a pocket holster, whether it's in a Kydex or taco pouch, it makes your hand position properly. And it also, fully loaded, changes the balance of the gun entirely to a neutral point, so that underneath your trigger guard at the grip, where that little apex is, you now almost have a zero float. So you're not muzzle heavy, you're not grip heavy. It's right there in the middle, which kind of makes it a lot easier to focus on shooting flatter as opposed to working an end that's whipping. So it's drops free, holds more, takes a pounding, and helps you shoot better. And they're actually cheaper than a lot of the competitors with spring, $39.99 or $39, whatever it is, available now. Glock right now, M&P, I assure you, M&P is made. I have M&Ps here. People are already shooting the M&Ps. We had an issue with the springs, and we chose not to release it until we fixed that spring issue. The new springs are already on order. That should be live hopefully in the next month. So Glock and M&P, yes, 10mm and 45 is in the docket because that is not offered by anybody else, and hopefully Glock 43 in the near future. 4 colors on launch, 5 coming very soon. Yeah, kind of a big deal. Very excited. Worked on it for a long time. I actually have the prototype, one of the prototype printouts right here. The drawings are stuffed in the mag, so check it out, falcordefense.com. We have them on 4guysguns.com soon. Store.4guysguns. Follow us at 4guysguns on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that fun jazz. And I gotta go make some more videos.
Very cool. Josh, do me a favor and drop that under your name in the show notes. People can find it there as well.
Drop what?
The link.
The link.
Oh, to Falcor?
To the product you just talked about for 5 minutes.
Under my name up top, or?
Yes, please. Nate Barrett, what is up? The Industrialist Podcast, anything else you've been up to?
Yeah, Jake, just trying to get this podcast rolling here. We're having a great time. Like I said earlier today, we got a great lineup coming up. We've already had Jacob Herman, Century Arms, Jason Christensen, Concealment Solutions, Rob Pincus, of course, I think everybody knows. He's now in the manufacturing business as well. We had a 2-part special with him where he spoke about all that he's doing with his new company, Avidity Arms. And most recently, we've had Dave Barnett of LZeta. Fantastic interview, a lot of good technical information there. But coming up in the lineup the rest of this month, we have Kelly Brunn from Excess Sights, and we'll also be doing a 2-part special with Billy Birdsell, who's teamed up with Kanai and Prime Ammo. So would love to have some of your listeners tune in to The Industrialist, and you can find us at theindustrialistusa.com. Check out the podcast tab, and like I said earlier, you got all the links and all the shows are available there. And of course, if you want to go to iTunes, you can just search the industrialist or Nate Barrett. And tune in. Love to have folks subscribe, rate, and review.
Nate Marr, what Kinetic Development Group and Recoil Rider. You have any articles coming up anytime soon?
I just recently finished writing an article for Recoil. That'll, I think, will be in the next issue. Should be coming out this upcoming issue. Not the one that's on newsstands, but the next one. What I really want to talk about is this new magazine extension from Falcor, right? That takes Glock magazines and it's seriously that good. I'm really glad to see innovation. I'm really proud of Whitey and all of his involvement with that. I think it's cool to see companies come out with new things that break out of the mold. So, I mean, that's what we do at KDG, Connect Development Group. We're all about pushing the envelope of design forward and not being bogged down by the status quo of just rehashing old designs. But
Also amazing products.
Why, thank you. I mean, you didn't plug me as well as I plugged you, but that's okay. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, no, we got a lot going on. I just got done. I was down at F3 Tactical in Virginia this past week. I had a really great event with FN. So for the listeners that came out, a really, really incredible turnout. It was a great day. I got to show off our products firsthand. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff in the works. I'm gonna be out west next week, and then towards the end of the month, if anybody who's in the Army or lives in the Fayetteville area, the fourth week of March this month, I'm going to be down in Bragg for the USASOC sniper competition. So if you guys want to link up with me or come check out some KDG stuff, just go ahead and follow us on Facebook or Instagram and shoot me a message. So yeah, it's exciting. The calendar book is starting to fill up pretty quick for the spring, but we're going to be moving around. We're going to have a booth set up at the Stone Mountain machine gun shoot. Hopefully I get that squared away with Adam Kraut.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have a booth at the NRA show in May. So there's lots of opportunities to stop by and check out what we're doing. We have a bunch of new products out since shot. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Cool stuff all the way around. This about wraps up the show. You can leave your feedback by commenting on the bottom of this YouTube video or the bottom of the show notes, which will be at firearmsradio.tv. Just click the This Week in Guns banner there, and you can get to all the episodes and show notes. Leave us the iTunes review if you listen via iTunes. Contribute to the show with that Amazon affiliate link, firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. And don't forget to check out all the other awesome shows here on the Firearms Radio Network. Well, thank you, Adam Kraut.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jake. I always have a great time on the show.
Thank you, Josh Cast.
Pleasure to be here, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Nate Barrett.
Hey, it was truly a pleasure. I was honored to be on. Thanks, guys. Nice meeting you all.
And thank you, Nate Murr.
Always a pleasure. Thanks again.
That's a wrap. We'll see you next week.